Hello, my name is Martin Schweinberger, and this is my research project presentation for SLAT7829, Text Analysis and Corpus Linguistics. My presentation is entitled A Corpus-Based Analysis of Speech Unit Final Like in Irish English. And if I had a student number, I would also say it. Now let's start off with an introduction to what I want to talk about, so the phenomenon that I'm going to investigate. I'm going to investigate discourse-like. Now, here you have an example of discourse-like taken from the Irish component of the International Corpus of English. So the example is they take over like a suite or a just for themselves. So now, in this case, what you can see is that you can take out the like and you still have complete utterance. So they take over a whole suite just for themselves. It's just acceptable. So this is actually one of the defining features of what sets discourse-like apart from non-discourse marker uses of like, right? Because it can also be used as a verb or as a comparative preposition. So it's syntactically optional, meaning you can take it out, but it's still a complete, grammatically acceptable sentence. It's typically considered non-standard or substandard or dialectical or vulgar, according to the Oxford English Dictionary. It's also regarded as symptomatic of careless speech, and it's also deemed to be functioning merely as a meaningless interjection, for example, by White. In addition, it has been considered to be syntactically flexible. So, for example, Siegel in 2002 wrote that it, like, can occur grammatically anywhere in a sentence. Now, why do I want to focus on discourse-like? Because it's one of the best studies and most frequently used pragmatic discourse markers, and has received substantive amount of research over the past 30 years. So it's a well-studied and well-established linguistic phenomenon. Now, there are 4 different types of like. When I looked at the literature, you have clause initial like, as in like I've never been added. You have clause medial like, as in, you know, they're just set up so you can like learn the Jewish language and all this here. You've clause final like, as in he was a bit of a boring prat he was. And non-clause like, I know, but like, but you won't feel comfortable. And the difference between these is that clause initial like occurs at the beginning of an utterance, clause medial like within an utterance, clause final like at the end of an utterance. It might be followed by something that's non-obligatory, and non-clause like is not really integrated into the clausal structure. So these are the 4 types of like. And now that I've introduced the phenomenon, I want to just give you an idea of what's going to follow in this presentation. So I've just done the introduction where I talked about discourse-like. I'm now having a look at the previous literature and the literature review. Then I'm going to state my research question. Then I'm going to focus on the data and methodology, followed by the conclusion and critical evaluation of the project. And then I'm going to provide you with the references. So specifically, I'll focus on discourse marker like in Irish English. And for example, Hickey notes that focus alike is found in all age groups, and it's particularly common in exploratory contexts. So here it says that it's consistent across age groups, all age groups use it, and that it's common in explanatory contexts, and more people explain stuff. With respect to its clausal position, and without regard of its pragmatic function, like has most frequently occurs in clause marginal position in Irish English, vastly outnumbering clause medial uses. That's stated by Siemens, Meyer, and Schweinberger 2009, and it has also allowed for, and it's also allowed or occurring in interrogative clauses, so not just in statements, but also in questions or interrogatives. Schweinberger 2014 confirms the latter and shows that in Irish English, clause or speech unit final discourse-like is particularly frequent compared to other varieties of English. And also he shows that this clause final variant of discourse marker-like is particularly common in informal speech, among younger and middle-aged speakers and female speakers. And Amador Orino also points out that it serves as a hatching device in addition to being a focusing element. Now, what all these studies show is that basically we have an understanding of discourse-like, right? But we know very little about the correlation between discourse-like and other discourse markers. So thus, this research project that I'm going to propose will test if discourse marker-like co-occurs with other discourse markers, such as or tag questions as isn't it? And if this is the case, with which discourse markers or tag questions it co-occurs. So my research question thus is, does discourse marker-like occur with other discourse markers or question tags? In terms of data, I'm going to use the spoken informal dialogue data from the Irish component of the International Corpus of English, ICE Ireland. So all the files that contain S1A, and the data will be analyzed with AntConc and Microsoft Excel. In terms of methodology, what I'll do is I'll break down the data into speech units, and then I'll use string detection to see if a speech unit contains an instance of discourse marker-like or other discourse markers, such as well, so, or other question tags such as in it, isn't it, aren't they, and so on. Then the results will be tabulated and a correlation analysis will be performed. So each speech unit will be one row. And for each row, there will be several columns. So one column for each discourse marker and question tag. And if an element occurs in a speech unit, then there will be a 1. So for example, you have a column with discourse marker-like, and then if there's a discourse marker-like in the utterance, then there will be a 1. If there's no discourse marker-like in that utterance, then there will be a 0. And if there's, for example, a in the sentence, then it will receive a 1 in the row for and if not, then it will be a 0 there. And then basically these columns will form the basis of the correlation analysis. So that's the project that I want to investigate. Right now, the problems that I see is that basically I'll only be able to do string detection. So the study will not distinguish between discourse marker uses of like or other discourse elements and their analogous instances. So for example, like, as I said, can be used as a verb or as a comparative preposition, and can be used as a discourse marker, but also can form just the sequence of pronoun and verb. And I cannot differentiate between proper discourse marker uses and non-discourse marker uses here because it's just a minor project. So basically the results will just be a approximation and coarse-grained kind of analysis of the data. Also, the data of ICE Ireland is not quite up to date. It was collected between 1990 and 2005. The results may no longer reflect current usage patterns, but they are restricted to the time period that's captured in ICE Ireland. And also the pattern recognition is based very simply on a list of common discourse markers and question tags, which might not capture all instances of all discourse markers and tag questions that occur in the data. So I might actually miss something there. So these are the problems that I see with the study. Now here you have my references in APA 7, and that was the presentation for SLAT7829, text analysis, corpus linguistics, for my project, corpus-based analysis of speech unit final like in Irish English. Thank you very much.